Hello friends. So in last section I have already discussed I was discussing about the GIT, and there I have discussed the overview of the layers which are covering our gastrointestinal tract. So these layers were there were the four basic layers. I have talked about them. That the first layer towards the inside there was the mucosa, then we had the submucosa, then muscularis externa, and the serosa or adventitia. So in last section, in last video, I have talked about the epithelial lining of the mucosa, that is the first layer of the mucosa, and today I will talk about the second layer, that is the mid layer, which is present between the epithelial lining and the muscularis mucosae. So this is the middle layer of the mucosa, which is the first layer of the GIT from the inner side. So let's talk about the lamina propria. So this is the layer present between the, or you can say this is the part of the connective tissue which is present between the epithelial lining and the muscularis mucosae. So you must remember that there was three layers. First one was the epithelium or the epithelial lining. And the second layer was the lamina propria. These are the layers of the mucosa. And the third one was the muscularis mucosae. And these three layers comprises of the mucosa. So these three layers constitutes of the mucosa. Okay. So about epithelial lining, I have already discussed about that. What about the functions? What about their properties? And today I am going to talk about the lamina propria and the muscularis mucosae. Okay. So lamina propria, as you can see, it is present between the epithelial lining and the muscularis mucosae. So it is like the sandwich that this is present between the two layers in the mucosa, epithelial lining and the muscularis mucosae. Now lamina propria have various kinds of cells or glands. They have the glands for the secretion purpose, okay, and they have the blood vessels, they have the lymphatics, also they have the lymphoid tissues which helps them to tackle the antigens or microbes which are coming from the epithelial barrier. You must have remembered that I have told you that the epithelium have their fun function, that they are protecting themselves. So how they are protecting? They have the tight junction between the epithelium. So for example, this is the epithelium over here. For example, the columnar epithelium, this is the basement membrane, always they lie, they are the nucleus. So between them, they are very tightly adhered to each other with the help of the gap junctions, okay, or you can say the some kind of proteins, occludins and glaucin proteins, and various other factors are responsible for the tight adhesion between these epithelial tissues or epithelial cells. So if any substance or any antigen or microbe comes through this barrier, epithelial barrier, so they will present to the lamina propria, because under it the lamina propria layer is present. So the lymphoid tissue present in the lamina propria, they are able to tackle them with the help of these lymphoid tissues. Okay, so they're giving the immune response as far as lamina propria is concerned. So what are the composition of the lamina propria? If you say that what factors and what kind of cells and substances are present over there. So in lamina propria, So in lamina propria, blood vessels are present. Various kinds of blood vessels are present over there. Then they have the lymphatics, okay, to drain out some kind of substances. Blood vessels for the nourishment. and they have the lymphoid tissues. Lymphoid tissues, as you know now, that they are the responsible for the immune response. Whatever antigens or microbes are coming through the epithelial barrier, so they are able to tackle them. So they are giving the immune response to the lamina propria. Now they have some kind of glands also for the secretion purpose. They have some kinds of glands too, okay, for the purpose of secretions of various kinds of substances. Now let's go into the parts of the GIT and the lamina propria, that what kind of glands are present over there. So if we will focus over the glands, so let's talk about the esophagus first of all. In esophagus there are the esophageal cardiac glands. So let's talk about esophagus. Esophagus. In the lamina propria of the esophagus, they are presenting the cells which are called as esophageal cardiac glands. But these are different from the cardiac cells present in the heart. They are cardiomyocytes. That is different. It is completely different from this. But these are the cardiac glands. So what they have in the esophagus, as far as lamina propria is concerned, they have the esophageal cardiac glands. Cardiac glands. Okay. Moving on to the esophagus, let me draw the diagram over here so that you can really understand about it. Let me make an overview of the GIT just thoroughly. For example, this is our esophagus. Okay, here we have the pharyngeal muscles, esophageal sphincter. Here is our stomach. Okay, so here is our stomach, and it is going through the duodenum. Okay, like this U-shaped structure, and then it's continuing into the jejunum, ileum. Okay, and for example, this is our colon over here. This is the vermiform appendix. This is the cecum, and this is going the ascending colon, for example. Okay, and like this, it's coming like this. And this is the transverse colon. This is the descending colon over here, and this is the sigmoid colon. Okay, and this is the rectum over here, and at last we have the anal canal. So this is the overview of the GIT, just for the understanding purpose. So this is our esophagus. So here, over here in the esophagus, we have what kind of glands? So as far as lamina propria is concerned, there is the lamina propria is providing the glands, some kind of glands over here. Okay, so these glands are the esophageal cardiac glands. Esophageal because they are present in the esophagus, so that's why esophageal cardiac glands. So these are the cardiac glands over here. Cardiac glands. Now coming over to the stomach, simple, lamina propria is providing the gastric glands. Okay, so gastric, stomach. So easily you can remember that here we have the gastric glands. Gastric glands. Function very simple. Gastric glands are responsible for producing various kinds of substances like gastrin, some kind of mucus through the mucous cells. Pepsinogens are releasing from the chief cells. HCl or intrinsic factor releasing from the parietal cells in the stomach. So various kinds of these kinds of secretions. So behind them, their gastric glands are responsible for it. Okay. Now coming over to the small intestine, the duodenum, jejunum, ileum, which are the part of the small intestine. Duodenum is the first one. So coming over to the small intestine, there we have the villi in the small intestine, and in the villi, lamina propria is obviously present over there. So in the lamina propria, there are the lacteals present over there. Let me make the one more diagram of the small intestine only. So for example, these are the first of all we have the epithelial lining, then we have the lamina propria. Okay, so let's suppose they have, this is the epithelial lining, here we have the lamina propria in it. Okay, now epithelial lining, lamina propria. In the lamina propria we have the lacteals present in between them. So some kind of lacteals are present over there. Okay, lacteals, which helps in the absorption, you can say. So the functions of these lacteals and the purpose of these lacteals are that they help in the absorption of the food with the help of these villi, with the help of these lacteals, and they are present throughout. I've just drawn it one over here for understanding purpose. So also now these villi are continuing into the lamina propria. They are continuing into the, like this space, like this. Okay, and these are the intestinal glands. So I'm talking about the small intestine over here. These are the intestinal glands, and also they are called as the crypts of Leberkun. So these are crypts of Leberkun. Okay, or crypts of Leberkun are also called as the intestinal glands because they are present in the small intestine. Now, as well as they are present in the large intestine too. So right now we are talking about the small intestine only. With the crypts of Leberkun or intestinal glands, we have one kind of cells present over there, and these are the Paneth cells present over there. So Paneth cells are present throughout it. Okay, Paneth cells are present, and what are the functions of Paneth cells? They secrete some kind of enzymes. Okay, they secrete some kind of enzymes for the digestion purpose. Okay, and the absorption purpose. So these Paneth cells are responsible for some kind of secretions also. So these are the Paneth cells present over here. These cells are the Paneth cells. Paneth cells. But remember, these Paneth cells are not present in the large intestine. They are only present in the small intestine. However, crypts of Leberkun or intestinal glands, they are present in the small intestine as well as they are present in the large intestine too. But Paneth cells are not present over there in the large intestine. Okay. Now, this is the structure of the small intestine. So now there are one more structure present over there. These are the lymphoid nodules. Lymphoid nodules actually scattered through them. Lymphoid nodules, they are scattered throughout these villi in the small intestine. Now, lymphoid nodules are present over here, here, and also as they are moving distally, as they are approaching the large intestine, that is a cecum, the part of the large intestine, as they are going distally, as we will go distally, from the ileocecal valve they will open into the cecum. The ileum will go into the cecum through the ileocecal valve over here. Okay, so these lymphoid nodules are getting bigger and bigger as we move distally towards the large intestine. So there, for example, over here, this is a very large. Okay, and these are called as the Peyer's patches. So these are called as Peyer's patches. Okay, so as they are moving, these lymphoid nodules are getting bigger and bigger as we move distally towards the large intestine. So these are called as the lymphoid nodules are called as the Peyer's patches. You must have heard about this. And above these Peyer's patches, we have one more kind of cells, which are present in the small intestine, not in the large intestine. I will talk about large intestine too, but let me clear these smaller things. So here we have some kind of cell over here. Okay, so these are the M cells. Due to some micro folds over there, so due to them they have M. So these are the M cells. Also, what they are doing over there, what is the purpose of the M cells or function of the M cells? They are presenting the antigens or microbes, whichever antigens or microbes are present over there. So these M cells will present these antigens or bacteria to the from the luminal side to the Peyer's patches or to the lymphoid nodule side. Okay. So this was about the lamina propria of the small intestine. Now moving on to the lamina propria of the large intestine. Okay, so esophagus, we have the cardiac glands. In the small intestine, what we have? We have the crypts of Leverkusen, that is intestinal glands, Paneth cells, okay, lymphoid nodules, which we go towards distally. So Peyer's patches are present over there, and over them they are the M cells. So crypts of Leverkusen, Paneth cells, Peyer's patches, and the M cells. This is about the small intestine. In the esophagus, cardiac glands. Now, after the small intestine, we have the large intestine also. So in the large intestine, what structures are present? We have the crypts of Leverkusen, that is the intestinal glands. Okay, more obvious. But we don't have the Paneth cells in the large intestine. We have the lymphoid nodules, okay, but they are not going very bigger in size, or no, they are not getting any bigger in size. There are very few Peyer's patches, and they don't have the M cells too. Now, they have the lymphoid nodules, they have the crypts of Leverkusen, that is intestinal glands. Okay. Also, they have the blood vessels and lymphatics present over there. In whole lamina propria, the blood vessels and lymphatics are present. Whether it's esophagus, stomach, small intestine, large intestine, or any this is anal part. Blood vessels and lymphatics are present over there in the lamina, as far as lamina propria is concerned. Now, talking about this anal canal. So we have talked about the esophagus, lamina propria of esophagus, cardiac glands, lamina propria of stomach, gastric glands, lamina propria of small intestine, Paneth cells, crypts of Leverkusen, lymphoid nodules, blood vessels, lymphatics, Peyer's patches, M cells. Large intestine also, crypts of Leverkusen, Paneth cells. Paneth cells are not present in this large intestine. Crypts of Leverkusen. Also, blood vessels, lymphatics. These lymphoid nodules scattered throughout the intestine, and that's it. They don't have the M cells or Paneth cells or Peyer's patches. Now talking about the anal canal, blood vessels and lymphatics. As I told you that blood vessels and lymphatics are present throughout the lamina propria, irrespective of the glands or irrespective of the organs they are covering. Also, they have some specific kinds of glands. So what glands are these? They are the circumanal glands. Circumanal glands, that is here around the anal part, circumanal glands. They have the sebaceous glands. They have the lymphatics. Okay, they have the lymphatic nodules. Also, they have the hair follicles. So this is about the anal canal. So these structures are present over there. Hair follicles, circumanal glands, sebaceous glands, and the lymphoid nodules, also the blood vessels. So these are present in the lamina propria of the anal canal. So in the nutshell, what we can say, what type of glands are present in the lamina propria of various kinds of the organs. So let me write in the summary of the lamina propria. Let me rub these portions, and then let me tell you about this. But in the overview, what we can see in the lamina propria of various kinds of organs. Just to sum up all this information. So in the nutshell, what we can say, or what we saw till now, that there are, for example, this is the lamina propria over here, this side, lamina propria. And here I will write about the glands, what kind of glands are present in the various organs of the lamina propria, okay? So in a nutshell, what we can say, what we can see in the lamina propria various organs, what kind of glands are present over there. So let's talk about them. First one, let's talk about the esophagus. Okay, esophagus. In esophagus, what kind of glands were there? There was the cardiac glands, esophageal cardiac glands were there. Cardiac glands. Second, stomach. Esophagus is continuing into the stomach. So in the stomach we have the gastric glands, which are responsible for the various kinds of secretions over there. Okay. Then coming over to the small intestine, duodenum, jejunum, ileum. There we have various kinds of glands present over there. Crypts of Lebergon, which is very important, crypts of Lebergon, which is also known as the intestinal glands. Okay, intestinal glands. Along with them, we have the Paneth cells, lymphatic nodules, which converts into the pairs of patches as we move distally. Okay, pairs, patches, and M cells. Pairs, patches plus M cells were also present over there. So this was about the large intestine. Talking about the this was about the small intestine. Talking about the large intestine, small intestine is the part of the small intestine that is ileum, goes into the large intestine with the help of ileocecal wall, goes into the cecum. So large intestine, we have the crypts of Lebergon. We have, and also we have the lymphatic nodules over there. Lymphatic nodules. But villi are not present over there, no villi. Villi are present in the small intestine, but here in the large intestine, so villi are not present over there. Okay, and no Paneth cells. Okay, no Paneth cells, and no M cells present over there. Now, talking about the anal canal, last but not least, anal canal. In anal canal, what we saw over there, that we saw the various kinds of glands over there, like the sebaceous glands, also the circumanal glands. Circumanal glands were also present over there. Okay. Also hair follicles were also there. I'm writing over here that hair follicles were there. And also the lymphatic nodules, which are present throughout the lamina propria of the small intestine and large intestine. So this was the overview of the lamina propria layer, which is the most important part of the mucosa. Underlying it, we have the muscularis mucosae. So muscularis mucosae, they have the on the inner side they have the circular layer, and the outer side we have the longitudinal layer. After that we have the submucosa. So mucosa is the last layer, third layer of the mucosa. So that is the muscularis mucosae. On the inner side we have the circular layer. On the outer side we have the longitudinal layer, longitudinal muscular layer. Now, there also helps in the absorption functions. Okay, so whatever substances are coming for the absorption, and they have in the secretion purpose too. So after that we have the submucosa. So submucosa, I will discuss about that in the next section. So in this section I tried to clarify about the lamina propria layer and the muscularis mucosae. So I hope you like this video, and see you in the next section. Thanks for watching this video.